Hello, and welcome to the Dance Physio Podcast, a podcast designed to explore ideas and foster discussion around dancer health and wellness. We're here to challenge the status quo, bridge the gap between dance science and the studio, and help change the landscape of the dance industry for the better. I'm your host, Erica Mayall, a dancer turned physiotherapist who is deeply passionate about leaving the dance world better than I found it. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Dance Physio Podcast. I am your host, Erica Mayall. Today, we're going to dive into one of my favorite podcast episodes of the year, which is my annual holiday gift guide. For those of you who are maybe new or not familiar, I have been publishing or putting out some sort of holiday gift guide suggestions for quite a few years. I was looking back and trying to figure out when I first started doing it, and I believe it may have been 2019, although it may have actually been even earlier than that, but in a different format. So it originally started as a blog post on my website, and then in more recent years has transitioned to a podcast episode. And I love it as a podcast episode because I get to explain why I like certain things or why I'm sort of recommending certain things. And then I also have the ability to put links to the products in the show notes. So if there's anything that I'm talking about and you're like, ooh, that sounds cool, definitely check out the show notes. There will be links. I will just put out a little disclaimer to say none of these links are affiliate links. And in some cases, the links I am going to put there are potentially Amazon links. And that is simply just for ease of being able to find them and show you or point you to the products I'm talking about. Whenever possible, I will always encourage people to try and source stuff locally. So if there is a local shop, a small business, a local dance shop, anything like that in your area that has that product, I am a huge supporter of shopping local and supporting local small businesses. So the only reason the links are there is just, again, for ease of you knowing what products I'm talking about, but by no means are they affiliate links or anything like that. I get no, compensation, anything like that. So just putting that out there as a little bit of a disclaimer. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm not a huge gift person. And what I mean by that is, in my family, and even when I was growing up and now with my own family, we're not massive gift givers. And if we are giving gifts and exchanging gifts at certain holidays, we almost always try and sort of have experience type gifts as opposed to sort of physical things. I wouldn't go as far as to say I'm like a huge minimalist or anything like that, but definitely don't love stuff for the sake of stuff, if that makes sense. So when I'm putting together this gift guide, you'll see that some of the stuff that is included in it is more kind of experience or, online type things that aren't necessarily physical stuff, but I've included a lot of physical things as well because I know a lot of other people actually do really like gift giving. This gift kind of health and wellness gift guide came about years ago, like I said, because I was often getting a lot of parents asking me in the clinic or often after their child's appointment, people would sort of whisper to me like as they were leaving or even send me an email later and say, hey, is there anything you would recommend that I can include as part of like a Christmas gift or holiday gift, birthday gift, whatever it was for the dancer? And they were often talking about equipment in terms of, whether it be strength equipment or just anything kind of health and wellness related. So I was getting a lot of people who were kind of asking, and again, it was mostly parents sort of saying, hey, I'm looking for stocking stuffer ideas for my dancer. Do you have anything that's like useful and practical for this dancer? And so that was where the idea came from. And then, like I said, I've just been doing it every year since then. So without further ado, we are going to get into what my kind of favorites are. If you have not seen or listened to previous editions and you're looking for even more ideas, definitely go check those out because I'm trying to not replicate things too much. So there's definitely stuff that is different included in previous episodes. So I'll put those in the show notes as well if you want to go back and listen to, say, last year's gift guide episode. All right, so number one on my list, and this is included every year on my list, is I am a huge proponent of gifting tickets or even like season subscriptions or whatever that looks like to some sort of a local show or even like a local event or something like that that is coming up in your area. So again, I definitely personally prefer experiences over things. So this is always something that we're looking at. And honestly, right now, the arts really, really needs as much support as it can get. So whether it's a local dance company, maybe it's a musical theater show, maybe it is some sort of a pantomime, who knows what it is. But I would really encourage you to have a little Google of what's going on in your area coming up in the next few months and consider gifting tickets to some sort of an event. If you are local in the Vancouver area, you know that I am a huge supporter of Ballet BC, and they have 2 more home shows coming up in the spring, the next of which I actually don't have the dates in front of me right now, but it will be, I believe it is the first kind of week in March. It might even be right at the end of February. Anyway, whatever those dates happen to be. So that could be something that you could consider for sure. There's always the Broadway Across Canada shows. They're coming, constantly to town. And so you could look and see if one of your favorite musicals is coming. And then I'm also going to put in a little plug here for Untamed, which if you're on my email newsletter, which if you're not, go ahead, pause the episode for a second, go add yourself to my email newsletter. But if you're on my email newsletter, you will know that a couple days ago, I announced that registration for Untamed, the early bird registration opened yesterday, if you're listening to this episode on the day it dropped. And Untamed is an adult dance convention that is happening in the Vancouver area. It's happening in Langley in March of this year. So it is structured just like a dance convention for younger dancers. So a variety of classes throughout the day, different styles. It's going to be so much fun, but it is exclusively for dancers that are 18 plus, because the organizer of the event was taking her daughter and her dancers to all of these conventions and seeing how much fun the dancers were having and was like, wait a second, why can't adults be having this much fun as well? So that could absolutely be something that you could consider as a gift for somebody for the holidays. So any sort of kind of event or show or something like that, I would absolutely encourage you to get out and support your local arts community. Number 2, continuing on the theme of sort of non-physical stuff, I'm a huge fan of online subscriptions to things. And I am going to give you a couple of ideas of a few, but again, I think have included online subscriptions in holiday gift guides every other year that I've done them. So go back and check those ones out if you want other ideas, because there are tons of amazing subscriptions that exist for dancers. The one, or actually I'm going to plug 2 right now, but the first one that I'm going to plug is one that I've talked about before, and I think it was even in last year's holiday gift guide. It is called the Library Aesthetic, and this is like an online media platform, I'm going to call it, because there are videos, there are blogs, there are podcasts, so there's written, there's video, there's auditory, there's so many different mediums that you can consume information in. And the contributors to this site are experts within dance fields from all over the world. There is so much information on this site. It is mind-blowing how much information is on the Library Aesthetic. And I've definitely talked about it on the podcast in the past, but this year, the reason I want to highlight it is that they have recently introduced studio subscriptions. So previously, it was only individual subscriptions that were available, but they have recently introduced a studio subscription. So if you are looking for a gift, potentially for a studio owner or teachers, some sort of like a group teacher gift or something like that, a studio subscription gift to the Library Aesthetic would be an amazing resource. Like I said, there is so much information on every topic. There's loads of dancer health and wellness information, but there's also stuff on like dance history and it covers everything. So Definitely check out Library Aesthetic and consider either an individual or a studio subscription. The second one I'm going to highlight is one that's a little bit more focused on actual like training, and it's called the From Head to Toe Academy. And Chloe Turner has actually been a guest on the podcast previously, and this is geared towards Irish dancers, but they have strength and conditioning, kind of like live classes. They have mental health. They have just, again, like a wealth of resources. And they also have studio subscriptions available and individual subscriptions. So if you are looking for something that's a little more training focused, and especially if you're in the Irish dance world, definitely check out that. Like I said, there's lots and lots and lots of other online subscriptions available. If you ever have questions about like, hey, I'm looking for this specific thing available online, send me a message, because I'm sure that I know of something that is out there that might fit that need. But also go back and check out some of the previous gift guides, because they include other examples of online subscriptions as well. All right, moving on. Next category. I've kind of just lumped this into a category that I'm calling like myofascial release tools. You can call this whatever you want. But this is like the number one question that I get, or people being like, what do you recommend in terms of like tools to roll out my muscles or do sort of self myofascial release and stuff like that? And obviously there's like your bog standard foam roller or things like that, which make a great gift, and you can get those literally anywhere. But two things that I'm going to highlight more specifically are Tune Up Fitness balls. So Tune Up Fitness is a brand that makes a variety of different types of balls. So they actually have like softer balls. That they have a ball called the Gorgeous ball that's kind of similar to like a Pilates, like a softer Pilates ball. But then they have a variety of different sort of sizes and textures is not the right word, like firmnesses of balls. And their balls are just really, really great in terms of, the different sizes and what you're using them for. And one thing I really like about Tune Up Fitness is they have little kind of like gift bundles, or like I think they just call them bundles, where you get like a few different products in a bundle. So if you're looking for something that's kind of prepackaged and really easy, definitely check them out. Obviously, you can just use like a standard lacrosse ball or even a tennis ball or things like that. So if you're just looking for something little like a stocking stuffer and you just want to toss in a lacrosse ball, that is always such a useful and practical gift for a dancer. But if you're looking for something that's just like a little bit next level up and packaged nicely and things like that, Tune Up Fitness has really nice quality balls. And then the other thing that I've added to the list this year that I use in the clinic quite a lot, and I actually have a set at home as well and use them on myself, but is a set of dynamic, or we call them dynamic cups, or these silicone cups. So if anyone's familiar with cupping in traditional Chinese medicine, usually those cups are glass, and then there's like this little like tool that you use to kind of like create the suction, so to like draw the air out and create the suction, and then the cups kind of stay on, if you're doing it on like the back or the arm or the neck or wherever, whatever part of the body that you're using these cups on. The silicone cups are a similar idea in that we're creating sort of this like suction and creating lift, or creating space between layers of fascial tissue. But these ones are made out of silicone. You can use them yourself. They're really, really like easy to use, user friendly. You kind of just suction them onto the skin, and then you can move them around to create this sort of like separation of layers of fascia, or this myofascial sort of release technique. Like I said, these are really user friendly. And so a lot of people, if they're not responding super well to like deep pressure type release, so rolling on a foam roller or with a ball or something like that, some people actually need more of that lift. And we get skin lift that happens through this as well. And that has really big influences on the nervous system. And so for some people, actually looking at using more of these like suction or lifting techniques really makes a huge difference in terms of the effect that it has on their body. So these little sets of silicone cups make a really, really great gift. So I will link those in the show notes as well. All right, I'm going to move on to what I am calling the recovery category. And this actually has like probably the most things in it this year, just because, I don't know, the theme of this year has been a little bit more recovery maybe. And I think dancers are much more aware of the importance of rest and recovery. And there's lots of different tools out there that are available. So, starting from a little bit lower ticket items in terms of recovery, I always love a good Epsom salt or a magnesium soak. You can get like magnesium, they come in flakes a lot of the time, but like a magnesium soak that you put in the bath that then gets absorbed through the skin into the muscles. That or Epsom salts or something like that makes such a nice gift for a dancer, but also, again, dance teachers, if you're looking for something that's not just, another mug that's going to end up in their collection of mugs. Nice magnesium bath soak or Epsom salt soak are amazing for dance teachers. So that's always, again, one of my recommendations that ends up on the list quite often. If we are continuing to think of sort of a little bit smaller sort of gifts, so these make great stocking stuffers for dancers, but toe separators or toe spacers. And I'm not talking about the toe spacers that dancers use like between their first and second toe in their point shoe, like those types of toe spacers that maybe they already have, although those also make great gifts because dancers are forever losing their toe spacers. So you can never have enough of them. So those make great gifts. But what I'm talking about more is the toe separators. One of the brands that is quite common or fairly popular is a brand called Correct Toes, and they just allow your toes to kind of separate or spread apart from each other, and you can wear them. You can wear them while you're doing activities. A lot of people will wear them while they're doing yoga or things like that, or you can just wear them while you're walking around the house. You can wear them inside your shoes as long as you have shoes that have a wide enough toe box for them. And it just allows your toes to sort of splay apart from each other a little bit and be able to function a bit more correctly. Our toes are meant to be able to spread to actually like allow the muscles to activate properly when we're walking or doing activities. And oftentimes, because we, especially in the Western world, tend to wear a lot of quite narrow or compressive footwear, or dance shoes in particular are very, very restrictive a lot of the time. Often those muscles can't work as efficiently as we would want them to. And so these toe separators are a really great way of allowing the foot some recovery and access to more of those intrinsic foot muscles. So Correct Toes themselves are quite expensive, but there are other versions that are very similar. And again, I'll link them in the show notes so you can see sort of what they look like that are not as expensive as the Correct Toes, and I think work just as well, quite honestly. The next thing that I'm going to add to this list, and this is becoming a little bit more popular, and I actually think I'm going to do a podcast episode specifically on red light coming up. But red light wraps, or they usually come as wraps. Sometimes they come as like panels, but it's essentially oftentimes they look a bit like a heating pad or sort of like a wrap that you would wrap around a part of the body, but that have red light. And so red light has a lot of healing properties. And like I said, there's a lot of kind of science behind it in terms of like the wavelengths and all of that kind of stuff. So I think it needs to be its own podcast episode at some point in the future. But what I will say is red light is great for collagen production and recovery of muscles. And these wraps are becoming increasingly popular and much, much easier to find. They used to be a lot harder to find, but they are much easier to find. I personally am a big fan of a company called Fringe that is based in the US. However, sometimes shipping and stuff is a little bit problematic to Canada with them. So again, it does not necessarily have to be that company, but some sort of a red light wrap or a red light panel is a really great gift for a dancer. For a dancer who may be injured, because they're really effective for healing, but also just for recovery. So if you have a dancer on your list who you know is dealing with an injury, it might be a really thoughtful gift. But even if it's just a dancer who might want to use them more from a recovery standpoint, I think some sort of a red light product or a red light wrap is a really nice gift. They are a little bit, on the pricier end. So this is not sort of a small gift. This would be like a little bit of a bigger gift. Next thing on my recovery list is some sort of a gift card to a sauna / cold plunge / spa type place. I don't know if these have taken off in popularity all over the world the same way they have in the Vancouver area where I live, but it seems like every week there is a new sauna, cold plunge, recovery type place popping up. Some of them are a bit more sophisticated where they will also offer like red light therapies or infrared saunas and things like that as well. Some of them are a little bit more like just sauna, cold plunge, but these can be such a good recovery tool, and a gift card to something like this, again, huge fan of experience gifts, is just a really, really thoughtful gift for a dancer. If this is somebody that you're close with, even planning like a little bit of a spa day with them and then including the gift card is really fun, but even just gifting a gift certificate to a place like that, I think is a really fabulous gift. I would definitely not say no to something like that. And then finally in this category, and this is like a much bigger ticket splurge item, would be some pneumatic compression boots, or sometimes they're just called recovery boots. There are many, many, many brands out there. I personally am a big fan of the Sisu Wellness ones. They are, it's a Canadian company. So if you are in Canada, I think they're based in Calgary, although don't hold me to that. I'm pretty sure they are. So I will always support Canadian when I can, but there are many, many companies that are making these. But essentially the idea is that they are these boots that you put on. Some people, like one of the brands calls them jet boots. Some people call them moon boots, like whatever you want to call them. They're these sleeves you put over your legs, so your like entire foot and leg is inside. And then they inflate with air to create compression that kind of there's different settings usually, and so you can go through different compression patterns, and it helps with lymphatic drainage and helps with blood flow return and helps with recovery. And so these are such a great product, especially for a dancer who is dancing, a lot of days a week with minimal recovery in between, or doing really long show runs. Like I'm thinking of all of the dancers doing 4,800 Nutcracker performances in the next month or so. Having these recovery boots is like really, really, really effective in terms of minimizing fatigue in their legs especially. I know that a lot of professional companies will have a set or sometimes a few sets of these and have them available to the dancers. But obviously a lot of our dancers are not dancing in professional companies or don't have access to that. So if you're looking for a big ticket item as a Christmas gift, these recovery boots are certainly something that you could consider. All right, we're going to move on from the recovery section. I mean, there's loads more things I could have added into that, but we're going to move on from recovery and move into strength, sort of equipment, we'll call it. I would be remiss if I did a gift guide podcast episode that didn't include at least something for strengthening for dancers. And again, I think I've talked about this in previous episodes and in previous gift guides. So if you're looking for smaller ticket items, things like TheraBands and stuff are awesome. They make great stocking stuffers and stuff as well. But again, if you're looking for something that's maybe like a little bit of a bigger ticket item, I am a really big fan of adjustable weights, adjustable dumbbells in particular, because a lot of dancers may not have a ton of room to have a full home gym available to them, and they don't always have time to get out and go to a gym or go to an exercise class or that type of thing, or have those facilities available to them on site at their training facilities. So having a set of adjustable dumbbells that has a range of weight available makes it so easy to get in just a few quick strength things at home. So I am a big fan of them. If it is somebody who is strength training really regularly and they are, following a really set program and looking for specific like kind of strength or hypertrophy gains, this might not be the most appropriate gift because they are just like a little bit chunkier than other types of strength equipment. But in terms of like versatility and allowing dancers to access strength training in settings that they maybe would not always have it accessible to them, I think they're a really versatile kind of tool. And I would also add a TRX to this list as well. So a TRX, for those of you that don't know, is a type of suspension training. So you can get different styles of mounting, I would say, or in fact, I think when you get the TRX, it comes with a few different options. But one of the options is to actually mount it over a door, like using a door frame, which makes it a really, really accessible piece of home exercise equipment as well. And the TRX is great because you can work upper body, you can work lower body, you can work core, you can work all sorts of different things if you know how to use it correctly. And there's lots of information available online in terms of coming up with exercise routines or exercise programs for the TRX. They pack up really small, so they're sort of straps with handles on them essentially. And so again, as a really versatile piece of equipment for a dancer, you can pack them up and put it in a suitcase and take it like to a hotel or places like that with you. So I really love a TRX as a piece of exercise equipment that really helps us to promote strength training. All right, 2 more things for you, and then I will be done. Next one, I always like to include some sort of an apparel on the list, because what dancer does not like having new dance clothes or warm-ups or whatever? And so this year, the company that has made the cut is Bar Trash. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with them. They do lots of good like leg warmers and warm-up gear and things like that. And I like this company because it is founded by professional dancers who I believe are actually still dancing professionally, or at least like recently were dancing. They might be retired. I think they're actually still dancing professionally. They really value making sure that their materials are ethically sourced and prioritizing things that help the environment. So using, say, ground transportation over air transportation and things like that. They pay fair wages to their employees. So those types of things that align with some of my values are important to this company. And so it is a company that, I feel good supporting. And like I said, they have a good range of different apparel for dancers. So if you're not familiar with Bar Trash and looking for just sort of a fun, unique apparel type gift for a dancer on your list this season, definitely check them out. They are popular in the dance world right now, so you've probably heard of them, but you can definitely check them out. And then finally, the last item on the 2025 holiday gift guide is actually one that I have stolen from Jennifer Milner. Jennifer's been a guest on the podcast before, so some of you may be familiar with her, or if you're in the dance world, hopefully you are familiar with her. If you are not, go follow her right now. She's brilliant. She works a lot with hypermobile dancers, and she just is a wealth of information and one of my good friends within the dance community. And she introduced me to Gus the Wonder Sloth. And Gus is her sloth who she has in her facility when she's working. She works a lot one-on-one with dancers doing Pilates and like conditioning and training programs. And Gus comes and supports and is a very, very supportive Wonder Sloth. And he is what is called a Hugimal. So it's Hugimal. And what these are is they are stuffed animals, and they're so, so, so cute, but they're weighted stuffed animals. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the concept of like weighted blankets and things like that. And this is the same idea. And weighted objects, so whether it is a blanket or whether it is a much, much cuter stuffed animal, really can help with people who deal with anxiety or have like overwhelm or overstimulation in the nervous system and things like that. And the weighted objects can really help with reducing anxiety and helping with nervous system regulation. And these are so cute. So especially if you have younger dancers on your list who are still like kind of in the stuffy phase, but maybe like a little bit too cool to take their most special comfort item to like a dance competition or something like that. These are really, really awesome. Their bodies are weighted, but their limbs are also weighted. And I got to meet Gus in person at the IADMS conference in Las Vegas this fall. And he kind of sat with me during one of the sessions and stuff. And it honestly, like, there's such a nice weight to them. So if you're a practitioner and you deal with a lot of like younger, potentially anxious like dancers in your clinic, highly recommend having one like Jennifer does that just kind of floats around and is available for dancers. She also uses it sort of as a weighted object. If you want to add a bit of resistance to an exercise, instead of adding a weight, why not have Gus sitting on, somebody's leg or whatever it is? So, if you're a practitioner, they're a great addition. But also, if you have a dancer who you think might benefit from them, they're very, very cute. So shout out to Jen for introducing me to Hugimals. I love them. Gus is the best. I also love sloths. Sloths are like my absolute favorite. So I love Gus, but just thought that I would add that to the list this year as well as something that's just a little bit different and a little bit fun. So that concludes this year's holiday gift guide suggestions. Like I said, go back and check out previous years if you're looking for other things. Every year it changes a little bit. And if you feel like I missed anything that you're like, this is my number one item, send me a message. I would love to hear. I always kind of keep a little bit of a running tally for next year's gift guide. And if there's anything that you want any clarification on or have any questions about something specifically for one of your dancers, feel free to reach out to me. I am always happy to help throw out suggestions and things like that. So I hope you found that helpful. I hope everybody is getting geared up and excited for a lovely holiday season. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.